News at 10 with John Suchet.
Police declare war on the armed soccer gangs. AIDS doctors warn of crisis as funding is cut. Road rage victims saved by his veteran's badge. And the holiday starts here for shivering Britain. Good evening. Police today arrested 19 people and seized an array of weapons in an operation seen as a warning to football hooligans ahead of next month's European Championships. Police mounted a series of early morning raids on addresses around Tyneside. Many of those picked up were identified from closed-circuit television pictures recorded when Newcastle United fans went on the rampage after their last game of the season. From Newcastle, Linda Kennedy reports.
Dawn on Tyneside. 100 officers raided 30 homes looking for an organised ring of football hooligans. They called it Operation Harvest and it gathered its crop. 19 people were arrested. Police want to trace 150 more. The arrests came after police studied closed-circuit television tapes of the night Newcastle United lost the championship. Fans ran riot over the city centre. Some so disappointed they damaged buildings, others risked their lives. They got away with it, but police were watching.
The baseball bat, weapons, guns, a whole series of knives.
The gun may be fake, but the rest of the haul police seized from the hooligans is real and dangerous. It's an armoury designed to cause maximum injury. They even had guidebooks to teach violence and a calling card for the approaching European Championships.
Clearly it's timely with Euro 96 coming. That's we target our intelligence activities and our detective activities on the potential for serious public disorder as well.
Police forces in 8 British cities will share the burden of policing Euro 96. Wembley and Birmingham will share games involving England, Scotland, Holland and Switzerland. 12 other countries are taking part. Newcastle and Leeds will host Group B games. Liverpool's Anfield and Manchester United's Old Trafford will be used for Group C, while Group D games will be played in Nottingham and Sheffield. Every policing precaution is being put into place, surveillance in all grounds. Euro 96 begins 2 weeks tomorrow. Security here at St James's Park will be tight, just like every match venue across England. But if any of the action moves off pitch, today's raids have given an indication of the likely outcome, a clear victory for police. Linda Kennedy, News at 10, Newcastle.
News at 10 has learned tonight that Britain's top AIDS doctors are preparing to launch a major protest against government spending cuts. Funding for the treatment of AIDS patients is being cut by about 8%. But doctors say it comes at a time when drugs are becoming both more effective and more expensive. With the details, here's our health editor, Lawrence McGinty.
It was last September when doctors treating AIDS patients made what they said then was their biggest breakthrough ever. They found that using 2 drugs in combination was much more effective than either alone. Now scientists have found that adding a 3rd kind of drug, which attacks the HIV virus as it leaves blood cells, offers even more hope. It's by no means proven that the first results of trials with 3 drugs are very promising.
Quite a large proportion of the patients taking 3 drugs, you couldn't find the virus in the bloodstream. Now that doesn't mean the virus wasn't present in the body, but does mean there's been a dramatic reduction in the ability of the virus to replicate.
The problem is these new drugs, one of which has just been approved today by the European Drug Agency, are expensive, up to £4,000 a year. And just as they're coming along, the government has cut the budget for AIDS treatment. Some experts estimate new drugs could add £15 million a year to the NHS budget for treatment, at a time when the government is cutting that budget by some 25 million annually. It could mean some patients won't get the best treatment.
If the money isn't there, then we may see the case that people with HIV don't live as long as they could if they were given the right drugs.
Many doctors now believe they have a real chance of devising a combination of treatments that might stop AIDS in its tracks. Next week, they'll argue they can only do that if the government reverses its cuts in funding. Lawrence McGinty, News at 10.
A 73-year-old man today told of his shock at becoming the victim of a road rage attack. Ronald Francis was pulled from his car and beaten after the occupants of another car mistook his wave of thanks for a V sign. They only stopped when they realized he was wearing a Normandy veteran's badge. ITN's John Draper reports.
The war veteran had just left an ex-servicemen's club in Portsmouth and was driving off when another car allowed him the right of way. He says the men in the car mistook his wave of acknowledgement for a V sign. Today he told how they drove after him, forced him to stop and attacked him, leaving him with bruises to the arm and chest.
He said, "Get out of the so-and-so car, you so-and-so. Get out of the car or I'll torch it." Then his voice got angrier. "I'll torch it. I'll torch it." And I got out. As I went to get out, I was grabbed by the hair and the throat and pulled round. Then he started to punch me.
Mr. Francis says an onlooker then spotted his campaign medal.
Then he stopped punching me. And he asked, he said, "Are you a Normandy veteran?" I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "And I didn't fight the war." I said, "to be treated like this, son. All I did to you was I acknowledged your courteousness in letting me go."
Luckily, in this case, Mr. Francis escaped serious injury.
Good morning, Insurance WDC Samray.
But in Kent, they're conducting a murder inquiry after Stephen Cameron was stabbed in his car. 1,000 people have phoned, 400 since his girlfriend, Danielle Cable, spoke yesterday about the killer.
I just hope he's watching this now and looking at my face and remembering that I was pleading with him not to kill the person I loved more than anything.
In the hunt for the killer, the same names cropped up several times. Police believe that while someone's shielding him, they'll track him down.
I'd like to believe that somewhere in the system we have the identity of the offender. It's just getting to that information, make sure we get the right priority and going knocking on his door.
It means that detectives may have to check out 17,000 L registration Land Rover Discoveries like the one used by the murderer. But the family and friends of 21-year-old Stephen Cameron have been assured by the police that the hunt for the motorway killer will be kept up until he's found. John Draper, News at 10.
John Major flew to Bosnia today to meet British troops and to hold talks with local politicians. He said he hoped British soldiers would be able to leave as planned by the end of the year, but admitted he couldn't be certain. From Bosnia, here's our political editor, Michael Brunson.
This is John Major's third trip to Bosnia, but the first since the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords 6 months ago. But can there be real peace in Bosnia while the former Serb leader and indicted war criminal Radovan Karadzic remains at large?
If the opportunity comes to apprehend him, then of course they'll do so.
Essentially dodging that issue, Mr. Major flew on to Chipovo in central Bosnia. This was the scene of some of the most vicious fighting in the very last days of the war. Now, after 6 months of peace, the Serb population is back, and the multinational force, here a British part of it, is hoping to clear up. A small market has started up again, though only one of the town's 6 factories is working and the school is still shut. So the school children were out in force, indeed were encouraged to join in the Prime Minister's photo opportunity, as he marked another stage in the town's recovery, opening a new relief road. Later, Mr. Major told the British troops of the important part they had to play in helping to make the peace stick. "I've been in the town," he said. "You'd be proud of what the local people here are saying about you." And then, inevitably, the Sergeant Major, rather than Mr. Major, was in command.
Parade! Parade! Cheer! Remove headdress! 3 cheers for the Prime Minister! Hip hip! Hooray!
Whether it all stays this calm depends above all on Bosnia returning to its own form of political peace. To that end, the elections due at the end of September are vital, and throughout the day and later in Sarajevo, Mr. Major met some of the politicians here, though not the hardline Serb leaders in Pale, to encourage them to carry forward what the British troops have begun.
What we're delivering is what has been promised, is a better future and no war. And reconstruction, regeneration and making life better just is going to get them that much further down that road.
The big question now, of course, is will the political process really work? Can I4 pull out on schedule at the end of the year? Can the elections go ahead? This, in a way, is only the first stage of the peace. Michael Brunson, News at 10, Sisovo, Central Bosnia.
A confirmed Liberal was today appointed to succeed Lord Taylor as the most senior judge in England and Wales. Sir Thomas Bingham is expected to continue the reforms to the legal system begun by his predecessor, whose parting shot was a blistering attack on the government's sentencing policy. It's been revealed tonight that the government is proposing new laws to give employers wider powers to check the criminal records of prospective employees. The Home Secretary, Michael Howard, wants to set up a new agency to give wider access to the National Police Computer, which holds the criminal records of 5 million people. ITN's Adrian Britton reports.
Michael Howard's vetting proposals go much further than expected. The white paper, to be published shortly, will give all employers the right to check the criminal records of job applicants. Tomorrow's Daily Telegraph gives details of how convictions recorded on the police national computer will be supplied to a new vetting agency. The onus will be on the job seeker to obtain a criminal conviction certificate from that agency and for a fee in order to prove their past to prospective employers. Tonight, Labour questioned whether the certificates would provide enough up-to-date information. There are also likely to be concerns from civil liberty groups over the rehabilitation of offenders. But senior Tories say the stringent measures are overdue.
There is no secret about these offences. After all, these people are convicted publicly in an open court. So therefore, why don't we make the information available to the very people who should know about it? After all, social services ought to know precisely who are they employing. Is that person a paedophile? Are children at risk?
Currently, employers can carry out limited checks on people wanting to work in positions of trust, such as at hospitals or schools. But under the government's new proposals, those employers will be given full access via the new agency to information on the police computer. The Home Secretary has already announced plans for a national register of paedophiles so they can be tracked for life. But there'll now be a more rigorous system for vetting those who want to work with children. Prospective employers will be able to find out even if they've received a police caution or whether police have considered a prosecution. Adrian Britton, News at 10 at the Home Office.
More still to come on News at 10, including Russian pirouette, President Yeltsin's new tactic to win over voters. The great bank holiday escape gets underway. Why these are the lucky ones. And drivers who cause rage on the roads. But is it driving or tempers that are getting worse?
I jumped out the car, ripped his door open, and just said to him, what the hell do you think you're playing at?
Welcome back. Boris Yeltsin's re-election campaign took on renewed vigor today. The Russian president's opinion poll rating has been improving of late, and today he made the most of a photo opportunity to prove he's fit enough to carry on governing, despite his heart problems of last year. Our Moscow correspondent Julian Mannion reports.
When this election race started, there were doubts that Boris Yeltsin's health could take the strain after 2 bouts of heart trouble last year. But today he showed more of the campaigning vigor that is surprising the Russian public by climbing onto a wooden swing in the northern city of Arkhangelsk. The president put his back into it, apparently hoping to demonstrate that Russia is swinging his way, though most political observers believe that he is actually running neck and neck with his communist challenger Gennady Zyuganov. Zyuganov is generally seen as a dull campaigner, avoiding election stunts. But today Yeltsin was at his barnstorming best, confident in front of the cameras, and no doubt also confident that the government television stations, which he effectively controls, will run the pictures prominently. Yeltsin first succeeded because he was one of the few Russian politicians with a genuinely popular touch. In this campaign, he's rediscovering it. Julian Mannion, News at 10, Moscow.
Here, a tragic story which began 7 years ago when a man went on the rampage with a shotgun finally came to an end today. Robert Sartin was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in a secure hospital for killing 1 man and wounding 16 other people. His moment of madness stunned a quiet residential area of Monk Seaton near Newcastle. The trial was held up because he was mentally unfit, and today the judge accepted Sartin was a gravely ill man. From Durham Crown Court, Andrew Simmons reports.
Robert Sartin was driven away to spend a lifetime in a high-security hospital, having finally faced justice 7 years after his crimes. Psychiatrists had declared the schizophrenic fit enough to make a plea to the charges. He had killed one man and injured 17 other people during 20 minutes of relentless shotgun fire in suburban Monk Seaton. Sartin claimed to hear voices guiding him. He had previously visited Hungerford, scene of mass murder which left 18 dead. Pale and still, Sartin answered not guilty by virtue of insanity 17 times as the charges were read out. He was so unstable that the judge agreed for him to be taken back down to the cells as the case was heard. Sartin passed on a note in which he said it was completely the product of a mental illness, so severe that reality was taken over by insanity. He added, "I am so very sorry." There was no response to the apology from the family of the dead man, father of two, Ken McIntosh, who had been told by Sartin, "It is your day to die." They issued a statement read out by the police.
He loved his family more than anything in the world. That love has kept us sane throughout this 7 years of hell.
One of the injured, Bob Wilson, who still has shotgun pellets embedded in his back, says there can be no forgiving Sartin, whatever his state of mind.
Deep down, I'm angry. I'm angry that people like him constantly get away with doing this without capital punishment. I'm a great believer in capital punishment.
Sartin, a former civil servant with an interest in the occult, was told by the judge, Mr. Justice Kennedy, he was and remains a gravely ill man and would never be set free. Andrew Simmons, News at 10, Durham Crown Court.
The government tonight launched its legal challenge to overturn the European Union's ban on British beef by lodging appeal papers with the European Court of Justice. The hearing could be arranged by the end of next month, but it'll be at least 10 months before a final verdict is announced. MPs are demanding police action over claims that a health clinic is handing out condoms to children as young as 9. But health chiefs in Bristol say it's the only way to prevent child pregnancies. A huge fire which destroyed 3 superstores and severely damaged another in Gloucester is thought to have been started by youths. More than 100 firefighters from 3 counties tackled the blaze, which caused millions of pounds worth of damage. Earlier on News at 10, we covered the latest reported incidents of motorists attacking other motorists. Many of us have been guilty of some form of road rage, though thankfully it rarely ends in violence. Clogged roads and bad driving habits are often the spark. But is there something we can do to prevent our anger boiling over? Vernon Mann has spent the week talking to the experts who believe we can. Here's his special report.
It's not just skid control they're teaching at the Silverstone driving school nowadays, but mind control too.
You also have to consider the emotions.
You must be able to handle your temper as well as your car, instructors tell a group of high-mileage company car drivers.
When you've got road rage, people don't behave rationally anymore. You come up behind somebody in the fast lane doing 45 miles an hour. Right, there's nobody in the middle lane. What would you do?
3 or 4 flashes, and then beep the horn when I get up close behind him. And then I might wave at him a couple of times.
Probably 95% of people think they're above average, driving-wise. And so when a situation develops where there's a conflict on the road, it's always somebody else's fault in the driver's eyes. But it can't be that way.
They teach them here to be calm and not to slide into confrontations with other drivers. It's reckoned 90% of motorists in Britain have experienced road rage as victims or aggressors.
As I was going over the roundabout then, he then rammed the side of the car and clipped the wing and tried to drive off, which I then proceeded to chase him. I pulled him over, and this time I was absolutely, really fuming angry. And I jumped out the car, ripped his door open, and just said to him, what the hell do you think you're playing at?
Without a doubt, I've certainly sworn at people, shaken my fist and driven in an aggressive manner.
Will the course change his approach to driving?
It certainly made me more aware of, and certainly with the things in the news, what could happen. And it gives me a greater perspective on things. So chances are I'll be a calmer driver when I drive through the gates this afternoon.
We're heading away from Silverstone now, going north on the M1. And it is apparent that the lessons we've been learning today are not being practiced by many others on the road. Already I've been quite severely cut up by a young chap in a Volvo. Another motorist followed far too close behind me for my liking, and I do admit to becoming a little cross. It is easy to understand what makes people mad, but even the experts agree that no legislation in the world can stop people losing their temper.
At Gretna Green service station, the RAC offer rage counselling, inviting motorists to talk away the tension with a psychologist.
If someone's willing to sit down and actually let go of some of the stress or the feelings of anger that they've built up on their journey, then the chances are that they're going to continue their journey a lot more safely than they were earlier.
Like most drivers, Leighton Durrant gets tense in traffic congestion.
But you do find yourself getting physically wound up.
Not necessarily get out of the car and hit somebody, but
that's what
your body's saying, hold on a minute, you're wound up. You've got to release the anger somehow. You can get wound up and you really want to sort of, you know, it can get to you, make the blood run a bit faster and give you a bit of rage inside.
Leighton, more relaxed now, joined the millions of other motorists on the move this holiday weekend. But such counselling services are not widely available, and police hope that after the events of this week, everyone will drive calmly and not react to bad driver behaviour. Vernon Mann, News at 10, Gretna Green.
England's top rugby union clubs tonight settled their differences with the game's governing body and agreed to abandon plans for a breakaway league. In return, the Rugby Football Union will give the clubs a greater say in the running of the game. The deal also means that Saracens and West Hartlepool will not now be relegated from Division 1. The first Texaco one-day cricket international between England and India was abandoned with no result today. Heavy rain prevented play restarting at the Oval. The next match is scheduled for Headingley tomorrow. Soccer, and the Juventus striker Gianluca Vialli has confirmed he'll be playing for Chelsea next season. Vialli, who's 31, had also been linked to Scottish champions Rangers, and today said he'd rather live in London. There's no transfer fee, but he'll earn a lot of lira, nearly £3 billion a year. That's around £1 million. The main headlines again: 19 people are still being questioned on Tyneside after police raids on suspected football hooligans. A large number of weapons were seized. And Britain's top AIDS experts are preparing a big protest against government spending cuts. And finally, it's a bank holiday, it's half-term, and it's raining. Today, thousands of Britons joined the rush to find something hotter. Somewhere, anywhere, but not here. Helen Wright watched them go.
The Great British Bank Holiday weekend has got off to a traditional start with some Great British Bank Holiday weather. According to the forecasters, we're on course for the coldest May since 1659. It's prompted something of an exodus. By the end of the day, about 20,000 people will have left London for Paris and Brussels, Eurostar's busiest day ever. The rain's been falling steadily at Manchester Airport too. Tour operators say about 1.5 million people are expected to head for the sun of Florida and Spain this weekend, something of a spring boom.
A couple of the major tour operators have put on extra flights this weekend. They genuinely this year have taken off about 1 million flights off the annual market, so they've actually had to put on some additional flights for this weekend because demand's been so high.
But the torrential rain hasn't sent everyone running to the continent. The crowds still turned out for this maritime festival in Bristol.
The problem is that we've been spoilt over the last few years with having nice warm springs and summers. What we're experiencing now is probably more typical of the British weather. You know, we can expect anything really at any time of the year, whether it be rain, sleet, snow, hail, you name it.
And the bad news from the forecasters tonight is that for most of us, the bank holiday weekend looks set to continue as it started, wet and miserable. Helen Wright, News at 10, Central London.
And that's the news. ITN bulletins throughout the weekend here on ITV. Late news tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Make the most of the bank holiday weekend. Stay warm, stay dry. From the News at 10 team, good night.
Hello, good evening. Well, there's certainly an unsettled feel to our weather as we go into the bank holiday weekend. Tomorrow we're all in the same boat, a mix of sunshine as well as showers. Then come Sunday, more persistent rain reserved for the south, but again that mix of sunshine and showers for the north. Let's take the broader view now. This is our Met Office satellite sequence. A whole pile of cloud lurking there across northern Europe, spilling in from the Atlantic, clearer skies for the Med, indicating the very best of the weather. So if you are heading in that direction, rest assured it's wall-to-wall sunshine, sizzling temperatures into the high 20s or the mid-80s, and certainly cooler, more disturbed weather the further north you go. Now, back over here for tonight, and some spits and spots and rain, they're reserved for the south coast, but not amounting to anything very much, and eventually clearing away. And we've some showers around western coasts and hills. Elsewhere, mainly dry weather, some mist patches floating around. Do watch out for these, but nothing to worry about with temperatures on the whole on the mild side. So we go into tomorrow morning on a bright note. Already more in the way of cloud for the far north there, scattering of showers, and ditto some showers creeping into the southwest. Now, come the afternoon, just like today, we see that cloud building up and showers breaking out here, there and everywhere. Heaviest of all in the north with a chance of hail as well as thunder. With our temperatures tomorrow, disappointing once again, a high of 16 or 61 on the eastern side, cooler elsewhere. A very quick look ahead at Sunday's weather now, and there's a confirmation of that rain spilling into southern parts. Further north, though, it's that mix of sunshine as well as showers. At least temperatures are beginning to recover again. 17 is 63 in Fahrenheit. That's all from me. Here's the summary.
Sponsored by Powergen, generating electricity, whatever the weather.